what the commissioners didn't create this ID card that the police officers look at and can't do anything. So it hasn't really affected law enforcement at all in Lake County at all. Now, having said that, there is an immigration problem, but it's a national problem, and it can't be solved, unfortunately, in Lake County. I wish it could. It can only be, and will only be solved when the President and when Congress finally decide that we're going to start enforcing our immigration laws, and mostly the President, the executive branch at this point in time. I cannot tell you how dismayed I was in the Arizona case when the Supreme Court decided that Arizona can't even enforce its own ordinance, which is absurd to me. It's a decision that I'm in total disagreement with. I think we have to start enforcing immigration. I'm in favor of immigration. My grandmother came from Germany. My grandfather came from England. I'm in favor of immigration, but it's got to be legal immigration. We have laws and we have procedures, and they have to be enforced. And the problem that we have now with immigration is it just simply isn't being enforced. And it's what's causing some of the problem. Why we are getting children born here, now American citizens. If the immigration laws had been enforced to begin with, some of this problem wouldn't be existing. So I hope I have answered your question.
Well, thank you.
Does it work? It is working. I guess then you're both in favor of having law enforcement check citizenship of people they encounter as part of their lawful law enforcement duties? Is that a yes from both of you? Got Werner first, because he was first before, and then Chuck.
I would think the same thing that is within my, sorry.
And I've been requested by the audience when I was out there to ask people to speak loudly into the microphone because some people are having trouble hearing.
I think if a law enforcement officer has any reason to believe that there may not be a legal citizen here, that they should have the opportunity to ask and inquire.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. I'll get it right someday. I agree with that. I don't want law enforcement officers just stopping everybody on the street and saying, I want to check your citizenship, obviously, because that's going to interfere with Americans, all of us. However, if they have a reason to stop and they have a reason to inquire, absolutely yes.
Now, one of the questions asked of you regarded in the questionnaire your feelings about whether the Constitution should be interpreted according to original intent or as a living document. And I think the audience would like to hear what you have to say about that, both of you. And who does this go to first, Chuck? Chuck? Yeah.
I feel the Constitution is a living document. It's alive and vibrant, provided we follow it. I am absolutely opposed to any interpretation except looking at the original intent of the writers. The Constitution was created for a limited form of government, to keep limited power in the government and keep most of the power to the individuals or to the states. Our Constitution has been interpreted totally by the court system out of whack with the original intent. I remember in law school many years having heated arguments with my professors about the Commerce Clause and how it doesn't say that in the Supreme Court decisions interpreting the Commerce Clause, creating all kinds of laws and procedures that the writers of the Constitution would never have thought. And I just took the Commerce Clause as one example of many examples. The Constitution is a document that forms our government. If we follow it, we're going to have a free society. We're going to have a good, limited government with rights maintained by the people. And if we allow whim and caprice, and that's what most of these court decisions do when they say, well, times have changed, and so we think it should read this way. When you have whim and caprice, allowing you to have the Constitution say whatever you want it to, we don't have a stable form of government. So I am absolutely and strongly opposed to any interpretation except that looking at the words, their exact meanings, as the writers of the Constitution intended to.
I would agree with Mr. Colson's statement in terms of the being in support of interpreting the Constitution with original intent. I too studied constitutional law in law school, and it was one of probably the most interesting subjects that I learned about. Learning that the Constitution, the original passage of the Constitution, I was shocked to find that the Constitution was originally a controversial document that was somewhat not expected to pass. I had a difficult time getting the votes together from the various states to actually pass it. The concerns at that time for many of the states were that the document would lead to a larger federal government and eradicate states' rights. Well, we could see that some of those fears, in retrospect, were very well founded. If you look back to the Anti-Federalists and the Federalist battles of the early times after the Constitution passed, the courts were stocked with Federalist judges who interpreted the Constitution continuously in a way that allowed the expansion of the federal government at the expense of the states. I think that was wrong. I think many of the decisions that I read during those years studying constitutional law stretched credulity. They were incredible decisions that made no sense, only to achieve a specific goal, which was to create a larger federal government at the expense of the states. Now, I do believe that the Constitution does not change with the times. I don't believe that we should be looking at things. I know the courts have said recently that our perception of what's cruel and unusual punishment changes based on the way society thinks, what society thinks is cruel and unusual. I think we should follow the Founding Fathers' intent as best we can, and the courts have a duty to do that. Thank you.
Okay, this question will go first to Mr. Barthol and then to Mr. Colson. For Mr. Barthol, you have observed the operation, I assume you've observed the operation of the prosecutor's office over some period of time here. And what is it about your candidacy that you would make be more effective make the prosecutor's office more effective? And then as a follow-up then for Mr. Colson, your question would be, what is it that you have done for the past 18 years to make the county prosecutor's office effective?
Thank you, Chuck. One thing I would do differently if elected to the position of county prosecutor is I would be an active trial attorney in the office. I think that in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, I think that's an important component of the office, that the elected prosecutor actually be in the courtroom trying the cases. I was an assistant prosecutor for many years, and I did try many cases. I prosecuted hundreds of cases and was regularly in the courtroom, and I enjoyed that component. That was probably the most enjoyable component of being a prosecuting attorney, of being a prosecutor, was the actual courtroom trial activity. In my private practice, since leaving the prosecutor's office, I served in the prosecutor's office for a period of 10 years. I felt at that time that I'd served long enough that it was reasonable to move on and do different things. I went down and formed a private practice in 2003. I've been in private practice in Metro since that time. And I've continued to be actively litigate cases and be a courtroom attorney and be in the courtroom trying the cases. I've tried numerous civil cases. I have a very good trial record, very good success in the courtroom with numerous civil cases I've tried, as well as criminal cases. I believe that I would bring that to the office. I think that would be an important asset, at least with the younger attorneys, to be in the courtroom. I think it's a boost to their, I guess, to their career, to make them feel better, to their confidence, to have the elected prosecutor in the courtrooms with them. They do have a lot of good trial attorneys in the office, in the prosecutor's office, but I do believe that that's an important component of it. I believe I would try to be probably more aggressive in the collection of property tax, delinquent property taxes, which I think are a problem in the county right now. I know there are payment plans and things that people have entered into, and I'm just getting that from experience as a lawyer. I know there's a degree of compassion that the prosecutor's office has with people who are behind on their property taxes. I think it's a fine line with being compassionate and working with people and penalizing other property owners who are paying their taxes. I think a lot of us take pride in the fact that we pay our taxes on time. We've worked hard, we've been fiscally responsible, and I have a problem with people being allowed to slide in that regard. I have problems with the mortgage, changes in principal balances, things like that the federal government's been doing well. It's kind of, to me, rewarding people for being fiscally irresponsible. And when you do that, you penalize those who are fiscally responsible. So those are some of the changes that I would bring to the office.